So we are jumping into a bit of a prayer journey, and as such, we're going to say a blessing for a blessing for something new, and also a blessing for studying Torah, because what we will study today is a different kind of Torah, right? It's Torah with a lowercase t. This is our learning. And so we're going to first say the blessing for the Shehechianu, and I'm going to write into the chat if you want a visual cue of those last few words. Ve'kiyamanu, ve'hegianu. And then Torah. Okay, so we're going to say these blessings together. Then we will do some introductions. Then I will orient us towards what this course will be and where we're going with it, and some of the things that I want to find out what you want to learn and what I want to teach. And then we will jump into the content itself. So that is the plan for the next few minutes. First, let's do them in the reverse order from what I put in the chat. We're going to do La Asok B'divrei Torah first, and then we'll do Shehechianu after that. Feel free to either stay muted or to come off mute for saying the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who sanctified us with commandments, including the commandment to engage in words of Torah. And now let's move to Shehechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehechianu v'kiyamanu
Asman hazeh.
Lovely. Amen. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who kept us alive and sustained us and brought us to arrive at this day. So you all know me, and many of you know each other, but not everyone knows everyone. I'm going to think that's a safe bet. And so the first thing I want us to do as we join in this class together is to do a little bit of round of introductions of say your name, and you can say something about your engagement with Tikva, or something about you and what matters to you. So those are our first two things. And then the third piece that I want you to share is, what are your goals, or what is your goal in this course? So I can start. My name is Rabbi Chayva Lehrman. My name is Chayva Lehrman. I am a rabbi, and my goals for this course are to enrich our Shabbat morning services and help us have the tools to together grow them to a new space and a new level. That's one. Two is for our adult B'nai Mitzvah students to get started on a good, off on a good foot, to be able to really dive in and understand the service so that they'll be prepared to lead it when they become B'nai Mitzvah. And three, to offer adult education, because I really enjoy it, and it's really important for all of us to be able to engage in learning together, both for the sake of growing as Jews and for the sake of growing as community. So that is where I'm starting out with this course. And Kathy Chaikin, I'm calling you first.
Okay, well, pretty much a lot of the same things. And because I'm one of the co-chairs of the Religious Life Committee and attend services pretty regularly, I want to be able to do more leading and help us get to a place where we can develop our own service that really fits Tikva.
Thank you. Kristen Fleischer.
Hi, most of you know me. I'm Kristen. I've been a member since 2019. I'm on the board of trustees. I'm also co-chair of the membership committee. And this class for me is the kickoff of my adult B'nai Mitzvah study. So that's my primary goal. Some of you I've shared that with, not everyone. And that's just one part of the goal. The other part of the goal, of course, is to add to the number of members of our community who can lead service. That's something that is appealing to me in a way that I would like to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
Yeah, I'm Patty Avery. I was a member of Congregation B'nai Emunah and have been a member of Am Tikva ever since the merger. I love coming to Saturday morning services. I've always been curious to understand more about the prayers. So I'm looking forward to getting that education and to possibly be part of a group working on creating a meaningful service feels like it would be a very meaningful activity to be engaged in.
Great. Thank you. Joel?
I'm Joel from the B'nai Emunah congregation. We've been members like a little over 10 years of both. And yeah, I am studying or considering an adult bar mitzvah and would like to also become more familiar with the prayers. Um, yeah, understand the kind of the who, what, where, and why of the prayers, I think is what I'd like to understand a little bit more.
Great. Victoria?
I'm Victoria. I was a member of B'nai Emunah before Antifa. Um, I enjoy going to the services, even though I probably don't always know what's going on. So maybe that's the main reason I'm here. I don't have any ambitious goals to do anything, but I just enjoy learning from Rabbi Chayva, like all the classes I've taken. So just here to learn so I can deepen my understanding of services, prayers, and all these different things.
Thank you. Hannah?
Oh, well, I already had an adult bat mitzvah back in 2020 in January. So I'm not interested in doing that again. However, I am interested in expanding my learning, and I love services. I could just sit in services and absorb, but I'd like to know a lot more. And I am also a former board member and former member of the Religious Life Committee, and this really interests me. So the developing what we might want to do at some point. And I started learning Hebrew before at age 69, just before my adult bat mitzvah. And it's been a long journey. I was not a quick study, and I'm not. And then I got to learn some Torah trope, and I would like to be able to do more, both with the prayers and being a service leader also appeals to me. So there's just something about the just moving things forward, moving the spiritual part forward. And I guess I covered everything.
That's great. Thank you. I hope you don't want to not repeat your bat mitzvah because it was a bad experience. I hope it was a
Oh
great
no,
experience.
it was a wonderful experience, and
It's-
sometime I'll tell you more, but it started out with 7 people in the class, and I ended up being the only one left. And so I did it alone. And there's some adventure in between that I'll tell you
It
about
sounds like it.
sometime.
That's great. Thank you. Elena?
Hi, I'm Elena. I also came to Antigua from the Bnei Emunah side, and I want to expand my knowledge of the service and possibly be able to lead it rather than just follow it, and also understand. I my background was from other denominations, and I want to understand some of the differences that I've observed from coming and some of the changes that have occurred in the services over the last few years.
Great. We'll definitely cover that. Naomi?
Hi, I'm Naomi. I'm on the board and fundraising, and I manage the private Facebook group, which everybody should join if they haven't already joined. Although I've been doing a terrible job of actually posting anything, but I'll link that now. Let me know if it doesn't work. And I don't know. I was like, Rabbi is teaching a class. I will go check it out because I never
Great.
disappointed.
Thank you. Tracy?
Hi, I'm Tracy Swedlow. I'm chair of fundraising and on the board, and I'm really enjoying my time at Tikva. I wasn't at the previous synagogues. I just want to stop taking these prayers for granted as I've done my entire life, and I want to understand their place, their origin, and I want to understand Hebrew better so I can really understand what I'm saying.
Great. Sherry?
Sherry Rosenberg, and I'm a co-president of the shul and started at Beth Israel Judea in 1984 when I got married, but I had come to services on High Holy Days the year before, and my husband's parents and grandparents had gotten married through Beth Israel. So I love history and I love our merged history, and it's a wonderful community. I'm just interested in learning everything. I mean, I did have a bat mitzvah when I was 13, but it was really more secular because it's kind of education I was having. And then in 2011, 8 of us had a nashot mitzvah, both of which were very meaningful. And I just like learning and like learning from our rabbi.
Thank you. Julia?
Hi everyone, I'm Julia. I'm teaching after school art classes at Brandeis and other schools, trying to help with fundraising committee. Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm here working toward my adult but mitzvah. In general, want to learn as much as possible.
Thank you. Gail?
Hi, I'm Gail. I'm pretty new to Antigua, and I do tend to just go to Torah study, which I love. I my mother's mother and her mother and her mother, they're all Jewish, but I was kind of not exposed to much when I was a kid. My mom experienced a lot of anti-Semitism in Indianapolis, and I think ran away from it in California. So I'm rediscovering it. I've been working a lot on my own, and I do say prayers every day in the morning and at night, and I just feel like I'm not doing it right. So yeah, and I love learning also from the rabbi very much. And so I just want to learn more and feel like I'm more connected with the prayer, doing it more
We'll definitely be giving
correctly.
you the tools so that I imagine you're doing it more right than you think, because not doing it right, I'm not really sure what that means. But I know that there's a lot of knowledge and a sense of confidence and familiarity to be able to use all the tools of the service. And so we'll be investing in that. Liz.
Hi everyone, I'm Liz. We joined the synagogue probably about 4 years ago with the idea of our kids doing their b'nai mitzvahs, and so I'm joining right now for this so I can do my b'nai mitzvah. I over the years, and especially since joining Am Tikva as kind of the first formal synagogue I've been part of, I've gotten more comfortable just with prayers and synagogue stuff because previously, and I still kind of do feel like I'm just trying to fake it, but I have learned stuff both being at Tikva and then just over the years, just being Jewish. So I'm excited to learn just more of the breakdown of the different pieces of the services and the common prayers. And excited to have Rabbi Chayva as a teacher here. So to utilize a different part of my brain is kind of exciting too.
Great, very excited. Deborah?
Deborah Schweitzer, a co-president. I've been a long-time member. I just want to learn more about the service, hear Rabbi's perspective of it, and that's really it. Not,
That's
not a
great. Thank you. Coco?
Hi. Sorry, I'm a little sick right now, so it's fine. It's just a virus. I'll get over it. But I'm I feel like my adult life, I've mostly I wasn't raised observant. And my adult life, I have mostly engaged with, Friday night home practices and then going to high holiday services. And so then I'd really like to break this cycle that I feel I've developed, that I feel uncomfortable going to services because I don't understand what's going on. And I'm very much identify with faking it. And so then, but of course, if I never go, if I don't ever learn, then I'm always going to be stuck in that place of not really feeling feeling like I can engage. And of course, when I do engage, it's wonderful, and it's kind of like a false barrier, if you will, because of course, when I'm there, I have those moments where I feel very engaged in the service, but that um, so that, of course, is one layer. I would be interested in actually fulfilling an adult bat mitzvah, uh, if if I can manage it. Uh, I mean, at some point, for sure. But whether or not I can do it in the meantime, in the next few years, is we'll see. But this is a great and exciting step, and of course, I'm excited to learn and deepen my understanding.
I'm really glad you're here. Suzanne, if you're up for it, but also if you're not, you can just give a wave. We need you to unmute though. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. My hip is unhappy. If I sit for an hour and a half, it's going to be really unhappy. So forgive me if I'm laying down. Let's see. I am interested in this workshop for a couple of reasons. One, I always like to take advantage of learning opportunities at Tikva. Two, I toy in the back of my mind with the idea of having a bat mitzvah, but I remember when I studied tropes with Sharon, it, it was so hard. It was so hard. And I don't know if that's because I was already studying Hebrew for an hour a day, and then the tropes were on top of it, and it was kind of like Jewish cognitive overload. But anyway, I am interested in that potentially. And let me see. The thing about the Saturday prayers, I'm not very sure I'll be able to be much help with that because I'm unable to read the prayer books because the text is too small for me to see. So, but I'll do what I can around the outside, you know, outside of that problem.
We will work on some specific prayer skill building, not just learning about prayers. So, yeah, we can address that. Jane, I know that you're off camera and off audio right now. If you'd like to introduce yourself, you're welcome. Oh, great.
Hi, it's Jane here. I've been a member of BIJ since late 1970s. My husband and I have participated in various committees, and my husband was president of the board for a while. Last year, I did something that I'd been meaning to do for decades. I studied with Rabbi Chayva to convert, and I did that with great joy last year. And now this opportunity to learn more about the services that I've been going to for decades is wonderful, and I look forward to another enjoyable learning experience with Rabbi Chayva. Thank you.
Thank you. We have several folks here who are real models of being lifelong learners, and just kol hakavod, excellent. All the respect to you, to all of you who model that. May we all learn through our lives as in this way. When I'm thinking about the why, I heard a few different themes, right? I heard some goal-oriented things. There's the I want to become bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah. I want to understand what's going on in the service. I want to feel like I have more facility so that I could get up and lead something. Or I feel like I want to see something new in our services and I want to lead us there or contribute to developing that. Or I'm just curious to learn, right? These are all good things. One thing that I think is being danced around a little bit here, especially in the area of I want to see something different or I want to feel greater comfort in the service, is spirituality. I didn't explicitly hear, maybe I missed it or misremembering, but I didn't explicitly hear anybody say, I really want to have spiritual experiences, which is pretty striking when we're starting a class about prayer. You know, I was talking to someone yesterday and they said, I said, yeah, we were talking about rabbinical schools. And I said, you know, every rabbinical school, there's three areas it can be strong in: book learning, pragmatic skills learning, and spirituality. And in my experience, HUC, the Reform Rabbinical School where I went, was really good at the book learning and pretty good at the pragmatic learning, spirituality not so much. And they said, how can a rabbinical school be bad at spirituality? And I was like, yeah, because it was all focused on skills and we forgot that part, right? We had tefillah every day. Tefillah means prayer in Hebrew, sort of. We'll talk about that. We had it every day, and it was in a library that was half classroom sandwiched between morning session and lunch, right? And people would skip it to go work in the library. So it's like, you know, it was a check mark. And if prayer is a check mark, we will go for other people or we will go to check boxes or achieve things, but we will not get much benefit out of that, right? We won't be, it just, I'm not going to put anyone on the spot, but I'm going to ask rhetorically, does anyone remember my High Holy Day sermon about prayer? A lot of people remember the Israel sermon, right? That one gets a lot of response. But the one about prayer, the whole point was the world is crazy. It was crazy then, it's crazy now. And we need this. We have our physical treatment tools, right? The things that make our bodies healthy that we try to stay on top of. We have our emotional support tools that vary, but might include therapy, friends, family, right? Our hobbies, things we love. Prayer is one of our spiritual support tools. But a spiritual skill set is something that is not it's not a natural part of our vernacular. And so one of the reasons I am really invested in Tikva having deeply spiritual experiences and services is because I think it's good for our health. You know, I think we need this. And some people connect to spirituality in different ways. And that's the point. Right? That's the point, is that we can look at these services as we go through. We're mainly going to focus on Shabbat morning because that is one of our biggest services of the week. Two, has a lot of pieces that we see in the other services. So we kind of capture a lot by focusing on that. And I want to create a space. And I think it was really well put by Rabbi Levi Kelman. And so I'm going to bring his words back to us. They'll probably ring in your ears since you've heard these before. Praying is like jazz, like playing jazz. The more you pray, the richer your prayer becomes. You can pray alone, but the exciting things happen with fellow prayers. It helps to know and trust the others too, although you learn a lot when you pray with new people. The Jewish service is built around a set of spiritual themes. Sometimes we all pray in harmony, other times we each pray at our own rhythm, at our own volume. Most Jews walk into a prayer session, so to speak, totally unprepared. They don't know the music, the prayer book. They haven't been trained into the musical, the spiritual system, and they haven't practiced in ages. They expect a spiritual high without, or they hope for, I wouldn't say expect, but they hope for a spiritual high without knowing the inner logic of Jewish prayer. And I think some people did say this, right, as we went around. They said, I would like that high. I want to feel something, but I don't know how to connect, right? If you don't know the Siddur well, start by trying to find words you feel comfortable with. We can find in almost every word in the Siddur associations from Bible, Talmud, Midrash, and Kabbalah. So that's Bible we know. Talmud is the rabbinic dialogue of the early Middle Ages. Midrash is the stories and explanations that the rabbis developed around Torah, and Kabbalah is mysticism. So a lot of language and references from those four categories are actually embedded. We're using those words in our prayer book. We just don't know it. Okay. The more you are tuned into these connections, the richer the prayer can be. The band meets every week. It could well be that the words or melodies are not familiar to you. Remember, any discipline is difficult at the beginning. Practice enables you to feel free. So we have our reasons, and I'm just adding this to one of our reasons why. Why this is a group that's going to move forward through these courses, through these classes, to talk about what are we doing, and what's the content, and what's the feeling. And there's Hebrew words for that. The content, the fixed prayer, is the keva. We often transliterate this K-E-V-A. Keva means fixed. The complement to keva is kavana. K-A-V-A-N-A-H. Kavana means direction. Like, if you want it, it's related to the word kivun, right? And that's a real geographic direction. Kavana is the way, the intention, the direction in which you direct your heart. And so that's where we get the musicality, the spirituality, what moves us, what lifts us. So we're going to be creating a community in this class. We will have days when I'm sure some people can't make it and others are not here tonight and they will make it. That's okay. The core of our class will move forward together. And we're going to now orient ourselves towards the 5 sections of Shabbat morning services, some of which we see in other services and some of which we don't. Okay. Any questions or reflections following the whys? Why do we do this? Okay, then let's jump in. So the 5 major sections of Shabbat morning services are Birchot HaShachar. I'll show you this in writing so you can see it. Psuke de Zimra, Shema and its blessings, Amidah, and Torah service. So here, I'm going to write this down in nice big print. So okay. Here you go. Okay, Birchot HaShachar, Psuke de Zimra, Shema and its blessings, Amidah, and Torah service. There is one other way that we could classify the 5 sections of the Shabbat morning service, which, if anyone's feeling like a little record scratch in your head, if like that doesn't seem right, you don't see the word shacharit here, right? So the word shacharit you see this has the same root as Birchot HaShachar up here and shacharit. So shachar means dawn. And its most specific literal meaning is dawn, but it is often a stand-in for morning, right? So Birchot, this is one plural form of the word bracha. Bracha means blessing, right? So Birchot HaShachar, what would that mean? I see. So I want to hear you.
Morning blessings.
Morning blessings.
Morning blessings. Great. Yes. So morning blessings. That's our first section of the service. Now, the morning blessings are not required to be said at synagogue. The morning blessings are some of the things that we say them at synagogue because essentially Reform and conservative Judaism don't expect that people will say them at home. Most people are not in the practice of saying them at home. And so we incorporate them into the synagogue service so that they'll get covered. And so the prayers for Birchot HaShachar are, like we see a few examples, are Asher Yatzar, the prayer for the body. This is just an overview, by the way. We are going to go into these sections in depth over the course of the next couple of months. So I'm not going to go into what each prayer says and how to examine the poetry of it right now. I'm just giving you the big picture. So Asher Yatzar, prayer for the body. So you say this prayer when you wake up and you say, I am so grateful this morning that my openings are open and my closings are closed. And that is also the prayer, by the way, that you say upon leaving the bathroom. You say, I'm so grateful that all the plumbing worked and my body is working the way it should, which, makes our teenage kids giggle when we teach them this, that there's a bathroom prayer, but it's also really true. Right? It's a problem if those things don't work. So we say Asher Yatzar, and then we move into Elohai Neshama, which is our prayer for the soul. Neshama is the word for soul. And this is not really a title. These are just the first two words of the prayer because Elohai means my God. So this literally translates to my God, soul. That doesn't make sense. What the prayer is saying is, my God, the soul you've given to me is pure. And why do you think we move from body to soul? Why would that be our progression? And why are these part of the Birchot HaShachar section of the service?
It puts me in mind of what we were talking about at Rosh Chodesh with the levels of the world, right? And so we start with what is most physically concrete, and we start moving out from there.
Great. To contextualize that for folks who weren't able to attend Rosh Chodesh, we spoke about the four Kabbalistic levels of the world. This will be the organizing theme for Jesse Giordano at the Shabbat Shira concert, which you have 3 days left to get tickets for. And so the Kabbalists imagine the world to exist on four levels simultaneously, and those levels are essentially physicality, emotion, intellect, and spiritual transcendence. And so here, yes, that's a great connection, Coco, going from physicality to emotion or spirituality. Any other thoughts on why we begin our day with these prayers? Tracy?
I think it's an attempt to connect with God, because a neshama is a soul that connects to God as opposed to the body.
Great. Yeah. I mean, Asher Yatzar also, it is a blessing. So we are saying thank you, God, for this. But Elohai Neshama, Asher Yatzar doesn't say, yes, we are moving into a more spiritual space. Yes. And I often think that these are blessings that are kind of trying to spiritually challenge us, especially if you're not a morning person, because you get up in the morning and all you're thinking about is okay, I gotta wash my face, I gotta drink some coffee. Oh my God, what's going on, right? And you can tell I'm not the most morning of people, and so but to say I have to wake up enough to talk to God in the morning, or at least I'm going to say these prayers and let them pull me into a sense of gratitude, right? So this is our early morning gratitude practice. And you can say these blessings anytime. This is not specific to Saturday morning services. They are morning prayers, morning, but they are not Shabbat specific. So let's move forward. 7:12. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. So we're going to get through this series and then we'll take 5-minute break. Psuke de Zimra. This is your first non-Hebrew word of the night. This is Aramaic. So it's very close to Hebrew. Pasuk is what we call a verse of Torah. And so psuke is the plural of that when you're conjugating it in this specific conjugation, which is a lesson for another time. But the D, that's your giveaway. Right? That's an Aramaic preposition. So this translates into verses of song. So we say blessings of the dawn, verses of song. Also here, I didn't say, but we have what we call Nisim Bechol Yom or Birchot HaShachar. And that's, when we sing that in Shabbat services, it's Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, da 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 da, and then it's often responsive. So, and now one of the things we can look at just to seed for the future is that the Reform Prayer Book changed the order, and so that's one. And there also Eit Ratzon changed the order a little bit. Right? So when we use different prayer books, we're functioning on different orders of those blessings, and that gets into the ideologies that shaped each prayer book, right? And we as a community should choose which prayer book feels like the right ideology for us, among other things, right? There's a lot of different things that go into picking a prayer book, but we have currently 3, and we have folks who have a little bit of confusion around that, and also I think that it's hampering our ability to create a singular identity as a community. And so that's something that eventually we should move towards. And this is one of the things that will, I'm sure, be thought of as we make that decision. So, okay, Psuke de Zimra, it's a lot of Psalms. I could spell. Psalms. So the one that we sing the most often is Psalm 150. Hallelujah, 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 right? And that is the last psalm. There are 150 psalms in the book of Psalms. And so we sing Psalm 150, but that's like skipping to the end of Psuke de Zimra. Like if you're going to do a full Psuke de Zimra, you're going to sing a lot of other psalms before you get there. Right? And this is just a convention that is not unique to Tikva. There are many other synagogues that also have that convention. So verses of song, they're all happy psalms. They're all praise, gratitude, God's amazing. Like that is the vibe. So we go from gratitude to joy. Okay. Shema. Oh, and I'll actually note, well, joy and gathering, or actually I'm going to say connection. Because what was one of the first things I told you about where we say Birchot HaShachar? Kathy?
Home. You can say it anywhere, really.
Yeah. So Psuke de Zimra is the first part of the service that you say at the synagogue, like traditionally speaking. So we go from gratitude to joy and connection, right? That we have to connect with each other in order to say this. It's not that we require a minyan. We'll go into that. That's not what this is. But you say it in a synagogue service. Okay. So we finish our psalms, and then we transition with Barchu, with the call to prayer. And that brings us into the Shema and its blessings. What are some of the blessings of the Shema? What's our starting point for that? Patty, did I see an answer there?
The Ve'ahavta.
Okay, so we have Ve'ahavta. That is really a continuation of the Shema. It's the next few verses. So the way they get separated in our service is a practice of, it's a rabbinically set practice. But if you look in the Torah scroll, you get the Shema verse and it goes straight into the Ve'ahavta verses. So yes, the Ve'ahavta is part of this. I'm going to give you guys a hint. Here this will make this easier. We have one here, one here, one here, and then sometimes one here. Okay, so Shema and its blessings. Any guesses? It's okay to be wrong.
I think the Mi Chamocha is in there.
Great. Yes, so Mi Chamocha. Yeah, Mi Chamocha is the end of the redemption blessing. So, and redemption is a really big concept in Judaism. It's not individual redemption. It's not like we are redeemed from our sins. It's a collective redemption. And so redemption in Jewish thought is when the people were redeemed from being slaves. And so we have this moment of redemption, and Mi Chamocha is the song that we sang in this week's Torah portion of the Song of the Sea. And so we take those words from the Song of the Sea, which is the song that the Israelites sing as soon as they finally cross the Sea of Reeds, and Pharaoh's army has been drowned by the sea behind them, and they truly now feel like they're free, and Miriam leads the people bursting into song, and that is their song of redemption. They're celebrating that God has redeemed them, and that is one of the pieces of the covenant with God, right? And God mentioned that when God called to Moses from the burning bush. I remember the covenant I made with your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that I was going to redeem the people. And now I'm sending you to be my person to help this happen. So redemption, major theological concept in Judaism, and that is the blessing that concludes Mi Chamocha. So when you sing Mi Chamocha and we sing or whatever melody it is we sing, we conclude it with Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. And that means, blessed are you, Adonai, our God, Redeemer of Israel. So we're concluding the Shema with redemption. The other two might feel more familiar than you think. Okay. We have been... what time of day are we saying this?
Morning.
Morning. Oh, great. Okay. Yotzer Or. So this is an interesting one, right? Because Yotzer Or in the morning. Ma'ariv Aravim in the evening. Both of these are about creation. So Yotzer Or. What was that, Kathy?
I was just going to say Ahavat Olam.
Great. Okay, so that's our next one here. Ahavat Olam in the evening. And in the morning, it's another one that starts with Ahava.
Ahava Rabbah.
Ahava Rabbah. Very good. Okay. Okay, so through the arc of the Shema, we get the three central pillars of Jewish philosophy. I didn't realize you were doing a philosophy class every time you went through Shema and its blessings, right? So Yotzer Or Ma'ariv Aravim. These words mean creator of light. Okay, or maker of evenings. It's really like the eveninger. It's a verb of evenings. The God is the one who evenings the evenings. And so in both of these, the blessing is, God, you make the world turn, right? Like, God, this is like, look at this incredible creation all around us. And so we start with the idea that God is a source of creation. We move from that into Ahava Rabbah or Ahavat Olam. What does the Hebrew word Ahava mean? Does anyone know?
Love.
Love.
Love, yeah. So what does love have to do with revelation? Naomi, you can unmute and serenade. I'm open to it.
I was thinking what's love got to do with it. So,
Oh, nice.
but
Yeah.
have to do with say it again. What does it have to do
Revelation.
with revelation? Well, showing your love to God is part of.
showing his love to you.
I think
Yeah.
it's God showing his love to you. Yeah.
It's the other way. It's
My
that God's
bad.
no. Because the thing is, when we start we're starting at the traditional framing, right? And then we're going to remember this is the keva, this is the fixed text, and as we go deeper into these sections of the service, I'm gonna challenge you to figure out what's the version, what's the read of this that it makes it meaningful for you. Because for some people, it's very meaningful to say, wow, God's revelation is such a model of love for me, right? And that's great, but that doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work maybe because that's not how they believe in God, or it doesn't work because because of the mitzvot, or maybe it just doesn't click. And so there are two. Rabbi Eli Kaunfer at Hadar says that there's two ways that you can respond to challenges in prayer. You can change the words, or you can change the interpretation. So in the Reconstructionist movement, there's a lot of changing the words, and it's up. Yes, thumbs up to that, sure. But sorry, for those who weren't looking up, the Zoom gave me a little thumbs up thing as I count on my fingers. But two, the changing the interpretation, and so that is always something that we have the right to do. But this is the idea. Ahava Rabbah and Ahavat Olam are both the idea that God showed God's love to us by giving us the mitzvot, by revealing the Torah. That's the revelation that's being talked about. So when God revealed the Torah, we got a lot of good instructions on how to live and how to live in relationship with God, how to live good lives, how to have lives that have meaning in them, and how to how to be in relationship with God, I already said. So yes, so we start the Shema and its blessings with this huge arc. It's all creation, revelation, redemption. And those are foundational concepts for Jewish theology. The Shema in the middle is that statement of faith. The one here that's in brackets is in brackets because it doesn't exist in the morning service. Okay, and that is Hashkivenu. So this is not a big theological concept. It actually is debated whether it should be included in Shema and its blessings or not, because it just doesn't exactly fit. But this is where it comes in the service. Hashkivenu is where we say, God, please shelter us as we go into the nighttime, into the evening, right? And so that is not a prayer that we say in the mornings. And you probably noted up here when we talked about it, that we have these versions that change in the morning versus evening service, but they keep the same theme.
Mm.
And there's no shelter equivalent from mornings. At least not in the traditional service. You can write it. So we're going to pause there, and then let's take a 5-minute break, and then we will be back together for the last half hour of our class.
The fourth one, sorry, I get to write it down. Creation, revelation, redemption, and then
shelter.
Oh, shelter. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Why didn't Shema have something next to it?
Because that's the central statement of faith. And it's a straight biblical text, it's not a prayer. Welcome back. So we are going to jump right back in. I maximized it, that's why I'm losing it. Okay. So quick review. What have we covered so far in the 5 sections of the Shabbat morning service? What is our first section?
Birchot HaShachar.
Very good. Second section?
Suke de Zimra.
Excellent. Third?
Shema
Great. Shema and its blessings.
and its blessings.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we have 2 to go. The next section, I'll screen share again. Next section is the Amidah. We're going to talk about the Amidah in depth. What are some things that you know about the Amidah? Just basic impressions.
It's the standing. It's one of the ones where you stand.
Great. Or questions you have about the Amidah. There's a lot of questions about the Amidah. Yeah.
Is it a more personal prayer? I think of it that way, but I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be.
We bow at certain times.
These are all good. Yeah, Sherry will get back to that. Is it a more personal prayer? Yes, you bow at certain times. Great.
Well, we
Other
say
things.
it out loud, but there's also a silent version.
You say it out loud or you say it silently. I'm going to say it that way because we're going to go into when you say it out loud and when you say it silently and where our practice fits into conventional practices. It is one of the conventional practices. We're not bucking a trend here, but we should know what we're choosing in how we choose to do our Amidah.
Is the Amidah the portion of is that where we're standing like angels?
Yes, yes. Yeah, so when you stand to do the Amidah, you traditionally face east to face Jerusalem, and you stand with your legs together, right up together next to each other like this. And there's even a passage in Talmud that says that one pious rabbi did not move his legs even when a venomous snake slithered over them because he was so good about it. And the thing is, like the Amidah, the reason you stand like that is what Karina just said, right? Is that you stand like angels. Because angels in Jewish tradition only have one leg. It comes from prophets, and it says that they have just one column that they stand on. And so why? That's another can of worms. But like we stand as if we are angels because the third blessing of the Amidah is angelic language. That is the Kedusha, the sanctification prayer. So that we're really going to get into. It's a little more complicated than some of our other prayers. But the things you should know now are that the Amidah, yes, all these things you said, standing, sometimes sitting, or sometimes silent, sometimes aloud, and we'll talk about why. It is done together, but often feels very solitary, especially because of the silent prayer section, right? It is a series of blessings, right? The Amidah is not one prayer in itself, and that's why it's considered here a section of the service. And we say the first 3 aloud in Am Tikva currently. We say the ancestors' blessing, Avot V'Imahot. We say sorry, I get distracted by the thumbs up thing. We say so we do Avot V'Imahot. We do Gevurot, which is the word for strength in Hebrew is Gevurah. So this is like, yeah, Gibor is I saw you say that, Naomi, because we started with Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, right? And that is, you are a Gibor forever, God. A Gibor is a hero or a very strong, like the model of strength. You are the model of strength. It is also, by the way, related to the Hebrew word gever, which means man.
I was like, Givell. And when we were on my confirmation trip, we had a cheer for the bus driver that they made up that was Fatih HaGivell, like Fatih's the man, basically. So.
Yeah, so, Hebrew has this connection between physical strength, testosterone-fueled physical strength, and and spiritual strength or God, divine strength. But regardless, we get a lot of it. One of the things we can study, if we choose to, when we get to that point, is okay, this talks about strength, and we understand linguistically that the root for strength in Hebrew is related to physical strength, or is just, or those two have a connection. But what are the things that we applaud God for or praise God for? How are those models of strength? Because they are things like lifting up the fallen, healing the sick. There's a lot of care strength in that. So it doesn't need to be quite as gendered as perhaps it looks at first blush. And then the third blessing we say together is the Kedusha. Kedusha is from the root Kuf Dalet Shin, or KDSH, which would be for holiness. Anytime you see this root, it's holiness. Kaddish, right? Kiddush. Kiddushin, like when you're getting married, Kedusha. And so that is the language. They say that the angels sang back and forth in the court of heaven, where the angels just all day long forever. The way I imagine this in my head, this is not how I personally believe in God, but the scene I imagine is that God is in the middle, some vaguely corporeal God, with a frieze of angels on either side, and they're going back and forth yelling at each other, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, because that's what we're saying, right? Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, and they're just going back. It's from Isaiah. And so that is what the Kedusha is, but it changes depending on which service we're in. So the Musaf Kedusha has different language than the Shacharit, than the morning Kedusha, right? And so that's one of the things that changes depending on time of day. So the Amidah, the last thing I want you to know about the Amidah is that on Shabbat, it is 7 blessings. On weekdays, it is 19 blessings. So why do you think it would be shorter on Shabbat? And where do you think that shortening happens?
Are some of the ones you do during the week petitionary?
Yes, that is traditionally what we would say. Yeah. What we do say all the time. I think that I frame it as what we say because we still say a prayer for peace in the Shabbat Amidah, and we are petitioning God for peace, right? So I don't know if it's a really easy, hard and fast rule, but that is traditionally what we say. And yeah, the idea is that the blessings that we take out on the weekdays are asking God to do work. And we don't ask God to do work on Shabbat. We're resting because it's God's day of rest. We're not going to now turn it around and tell God, no, you got to work for us because we're here to pray because we come to synagogue on Saturdays, right? So like that's the idea, is that we shorten the Amidah because those are all labor for God. And this is not. Now, the way that we shorten it is not intuitive. The 3 initial blessings are the same. And the ending blessings are also the same. So the ending blessings are the ones that say, God, please accept our prayers. I am grateful to you, O God. So that's Ritzeh, Modim Anachnu Lach, and then the Shalom prayer. Depending on time of day, it changes, but Oseh Shalom, Sim Shalom, Shalom Rav. Really, it's just Shalom Rav or Sim Shalom. Oseh Shalom is always in there. But we have these options of different peace prayers. Those are always in there on weekdays too. So the middle stuff, if you come to Tuesday Morning Minyan this coming Tuesday, you will see, and it is hybrid, by the way, at 9 a.m., and you will see that the middle section has a lot more prayers in it. And that's because we're praying for things like rebuilding Jerusalem, and we're praying for that the seed of David be descended through the generations. Like there's some interesting theological stuff that we don't usually go into on Shabbat. And that is all in those middle prayers. So essentially what happens is this, think of the Amidah. I'm going to stop here for a second. Think of the Amidah as an accordion. And on Shabbat, the accordion is compressed. Right? They take out those middle sections and you do the beginning and you do the end, and you have one prayer in the middle to sanctify Shabbat. And that's it takes the place of all of those labor prayers. But on a weekday, you stretch out the accordion because you're like, no, God, it's work time. We got all this stuff we need you to do. So that's my metaphor, right? Any questions about the Amidah and its construction, and some things I might say we'll hold for later, but for now, bring up all the questions and we can answer some of them now and some
Yeah,
of them.
I'm gonna ask a question.
Great.
So can you say again what the two blessings were before the Kedusha?
Yes, those are avot or avot ve'imahot.
Mm,
So I'm
right.
gonna I'm gonna screen share this again because I think it's always easier for some of us to see it in writing. So we have avot ve'imahot, and this means patriarchs and matriarchs. And then the second one was gevurot, strengths. And then we have kedusha.
Okay. Thank you.
Tracy.
Why do we stand with the Amidah?
That's a great question. It's very important. That's why. One of the things that I want to touch on briefly tonight, but we're going to come back to several times, is I often get this question of what's required in a service, right? Religious Life Committee's been really asking me just what's required. And it's like, I don't know if that's a question we can ask. We could talk about that, right? But if anything is required, the Amidah is required. It doesn't really count as a service without the Amidah. Gail.
And do people say the Amidah at home or no? It's only really, or do they?
They do say the Amidah at home, yes. Now, I mentioned a little bit about the silent, not silent thing. We're going to come back and reiterate this, but I'm just going to say it once now to begin, which is that you can only say the Amidah aloud if you have a minyan. So you can say the Amidah at home, but you would pray it silently.
What's the privilege of saying it aloud? Why a minyan? Why does that make it possible to be vocal?
It's a great question. I mean, I think there's a lot of depth in that question. The simplest answer is it has perhaps more spiritual power with a minyan. Right? There are certain things that are just weightier or more powerful when we have a group. But I don't think that prayer needs to have a group to be powerful. So, it's a good discussion. It's a good question. There's no definitive answer. Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you so much for asking in the chat. A minyan is, we spell it like this usually. Minyan is the really Hebraic way to pronounce it. And that means, yeah. Thanks, Coco. So the minyan is a group of 10 adult Jews. Right? We don't count kids in a minyan. And in Orthodox communities, they don't count women in a minyan. So, yes. Okay, I see Sharon's hand, and then I see Elena's hand.
I just want to say that, I mean, it's sort of repeating what you were saying, but that in Judaism, one shows one's most devotion or something by standing. And if you're in a Christian service, those would be the kinds that you would kneel for. And the Christians sort of distinguished themselves by doing like the opposite. But also, I think you just said it, but there are some prayers that you're not allowed to say unless you're in community with a minyan. So one has to distinguish that.
Right, and we're going to go more into that. So yeah, it is really interesting. One thing to always remember about any of the really old practices between Christianity and Judaism that differ, You should remember that early Christianity and early rabbinic Judaism were twins growing up together, differentiating themselves from each other, saying, they do that, so I do this, or I do this because they do that, right? And trying to really like clarify the distinctions because they were so close in their scriptural origins that they had to create some really clear dividing lines between them. Rabbinic Judaism is not much older than Christianity. Biblical Judaism is, right? But Rabbinic Judaism is only since the temple fell. So that there's a lot of things that we have like, oh, well, they kneel, we stand. They uncover their heads when they go into sacred spaces. We cover our heads when we go into sacred spaces. Stuff like that. Okay. Elena?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go into it later or now, but I did have a question about the differing practice of doing the silent Amida and then repeating it out loud.
Yeah.
And why we don't do that.
Yeah.
Any,
so that's going to be a workshop thing that we do later on when we get to the Amida. But for context, for folks who have not seen that practice done, there is a practice to do the Amida silently, even with a minyan, and then what they call Chazarat Hashatz, which means the repetition of the prayer leader. And so yes, Hannah, I'm happy to give, we'll go into books and I'm happy to give the Google Doc. So Chazarat Hashatz is the repetition of the prayer leader. And so that's when the prayer leader goes through and does it all themselves and people can sing along to certain sections of it. And that's essentially because everyone prays it silently. And then that if the prayer leader does it, they're going to do it right. And so they're making sure that it's done right on behalf of the congregation in case anybody kind of fumbled the words as they went along. And I talked about that section of beginning, middle, end, and how the middle gets taken out on Shabbat. Well, it functions for that too. If you make a verbal mistake in the beginning, you go back to the beginning to repeat it. If you make a verbal mistake in the middle, you only need to go back to the beginning of the middle, not to the beginning of the whole thing. And if you get to the last section of the Amidah and you make a mistake there, you just have to redo that last section, traditionally speaking, right? So this beginning, middle, end is actually really a functional structure for the Amidah. And why do we do the first three and then silently the rest? We don't have an explicit reason, like it's not something we've thought through and decided. Usually that choice is made for expediency, right? It's just faster and more efficient. And most people don't find a lot of, they say, oh, people don't find a lot of meaning in a full repetition. And one of the choices is not so much to diminish the importance of the Amidah, which it might sound like if you're saying, oh, it's just expedient, we're going to get through it, but is rather to say, this is enough focus for this to be spiritually meaningful here. And we only have so much time in a service and we want to make sure that we have other priorities elevated as well. Kathy?
When you talk about time in a service, this is probably something for later, but Musaf, which you haven't mentioned.
I have not mentioned Musaf. So the fifth section of division of service here is Torah service, and Musaf would follow that, right? Musaf doesn't function as a section of a service, and essentially it's its own little service itself, kind of like the afternoon service, like the mincha service is its own service. Musaf is the shortest of all possible services. It's basically just another Amidah repetition with a slight change of language for being at a different time of day. And so traditionally, and we'll talk about Musaf later, but traditionally Musaf exists because the service, when the temple fell, the services and our structure of services was all it was shorter then. It's grown like a snowball over time. But it was shorter back in the day, and it was like each one of these pieces replaced a section of temple sacrifice. So Musaf represented the extra sacrifice you'd give God on Shabbat. and that's why we have Musaf, right? But the liturgical, the prayer function of Musaf is mainly the Amidah repetition, right? So that's why it's not really a part of a service. It's its own little service addendum. Okay, so I'm going to hold our discussion, Naomi, basically nothing is in Musaf other than the Amidah, because if
there are
you take
mentions of the sacrifices.
yes, that's part, and that is inserted into the Amidah, right? We have the different kedusha, na'aritzecha v'na'akdishecha, right? That's a different kedusha text, and then the part that of the Amidah that in the morning is Yismechu, is the sanctification of the day of Shabbat, is in the Musaf service, that middle blessing of the Amidah becomes a description of the sacrifice, the Musaf sacrifice. So the Amidah changes for Musaf, but if you take out that Amidah, you're still going to do those concluding prayers of Aleinu, sometimes Ein Keloheinu, and Mourner's Kaddish. Those are always going to be concluding prayers. So Musaf is inserted above them, and that's that Musaf Amidah. Okay. So I'm going to hold the question.
Rabbi,
sorry, I didn't see your hand. My apologies.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No. Can you just repeat real quickly the three concluding prayers? You said them so fast. Sorry.
No, yes, thank you for asking. So the three concluding prayers of the Amidah are the Ritzeh, which is the prayer asking God to accept our prayers. If you've heard it in High Holy Day services, it goes Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu. It's a big piece. And then we've Ritzeh, we have Modim Anachnu Lach, which is a gratitude prayer, just a general, like, God, we're grateful for everything. And then finally, a prayer for peace. We will go back into this when we study the Amidah. This is not the only time. So you'll get that repetition. It's a different form of repetition of the Amidah. So that is the arc of our service. And the way that our class is going to work is that we're going to have, here, I'm going to show you, one of the things you'll see in this Google Doc when I share it is a syllabus. And some of this is going to change. And I'm going to update it each week with the material that we've covered in that class, so as not to overload you. But hold on. But we're going to, in our syllabus, let me show you the outline. Oh, it's not cooperating with me exactly. So here we go. Okay, so we began today with our introduction and big picture. And then you can see on the sidebar here all the sessions outlined. So we will do a deep dive into Birchot HaShachar. And that is also a deep dive into what is meaningful to us? What are different ways to do this? What do we want to lift ourselves towards in the morning? And both a personal practice and a communal practice. Psuke de Zimra, we'll have a section on that. Shema and its blessings, we'll go deep on that. The Amidah, we're going to have two roles of Torah service, two sessions of Torah service. One is on the rituals and roles of the Torah service, and the other is on meaning and creativity in the Torah service. Then we'll have a conversation about Musaf, and then we're going to put it all together. And my hope is that for the putting it all together, we're going to have a design workshop that we can do ideally in person, although we'll always have things available by Zoom for those who need it. And so there are two sessions you might have seen in the dispatch saying hybrid, in-person recommended. Those two sessions are the Torah service part 1 and the putting it all together. because the Torah service part one, we can learn how to do things like lift the Torah, wrap the Torah. Why do we do this way? Why do we do it that way? Right? Like really get it's hard to do those on this platform. So that is going to be helpful if people can come in person. Putting it all together, we're going to construct a service together. We could do something wild and crazy. We could do like totally not what we would do in services, and just to like stretch and experiment. So that's the trajectory that we're looking at. Every one of these classes will be recorded. So if you're not able to make it, you can always come back and listen to the class or catch up or reach out to your fellow classmates, because you have all now introduced yourselves to each other and have created a class community. And so we will, you can leverage that and ask, well, what was going on in class last week? I didn't catch that. So, and when we get when we move along, as we move through the class, I'm going to ask you, is this a prayer that you would like to lead? Because when we get to that collaborative design workshop, we can't say, oh, everybody's on the Amidah. That's our whole service. Well, no, we're not just doing a Musaf service. We're doing the whole thing. So what is a prayer that, and leading doesn't mean you have to stand up in front of everybody and do it. Leading means you have to co-craft. So what is the spiritual practice you're going to craft for that part of the service? And then we will produce something together. So thank you everyone for... Yeah,
Rabbi,
Deborah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I noticed that we don't have Kaddish and those included, and I'm just wondering, are they not considered necessary or part of the service?
No, it's funny you ask. It's great, good catch, and I'm glad that you said that, because it is actually one of the things that you can't do a service without, right? If you have a minyan. If you don't have a minyan, you're not allowed to do it. But like if you have a minyan, you have to do Kaddish. So we will talk about Kaddish.
Oh, okay. I guess I didn't see it on the.
I don't think it was explicitly called out on this list, but it will be there. We will make sure to cover it. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Any other questions before we wrap up tonight? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm looking forward to beginning this together, and I will see you next week.
Is there a link to the Google Doc?
I will send it out. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I will, I'm just going to screenshot all of you right now, and we have the recording in Zoom, and so I will send that out to everybody.
Thank you.